Time don't they suffer the ritual. We want to hear the tribunal, which they talk, and all the cases where they want present for this whole presidential election thing of a thing. So, but we see the hope, see they will agree, may they do this thing live. It go they more interesting, and everybody go follow as the whole thing won't be like, more follow them, more see am say yes, mago no, they the whole thing at all. But any as it be, with the obedience, we dey gidigba, nothing they happen, nothing they happen. And we believe, say, man, as the whole thing go, make it go on smoothly. Because we don't dey hear wuru wuru, wara wara, wara wara, that they find as they want to make all this whole thing be like, say, na Peter Obi fault, but they no go succeed. My people, this one na Bod TV. I go let you know, watch this interview of this our brother, where he can talk concerning the whole story of the forthcoming proceeding where they want to do. All right, now bye bye you.
The numbers that registered tells a story around political awakening. And the country is at a juncture where the election parallels 1993 in the sense of candidates and some of the grand rhetorics that accompanied it. So what that means is that you're going to see, again, this is also unfortunately a very low time for the judiciary. If you compare the judiciary now, especially the Supreme Court, and compare with 1980s, 85, 90s, this Supreme Court, this judiciary, not just Supreme Court, this judiciary has massive discredit. Merited or not, it might not be their fault, but the perception, one, of judicializations, when the court upsets too many elections, people get worried. And when the reasons seem not to align with the public sense of electoral justice, it weakens further the confidence of the court. And don't forget that the courts trade on trusts. When we see the judge bewigged with looking stern, we convey the sense that this is a man who is likely going to act not on sentiment, but more on facts and theory. Again, then what the court should be doing first is ensure that they build up that public trust. And when the NBA Prince talked about transmission of election, that's really important. I'll give an example. Third term in Parliament, when there was a bill to give President Obasanjo a third term agenda, one of the things that saved us was that the National Assembly, then I was a special advisor to the Senate President, Ken Damani, they instituted open hearing. So people were watching in and hearing how their various senators contributed, and when the bill died, don't forget that there was stories around 50 million bribe for legislators. But that open session diffused, deflected it. So people saw the transparency. And one of the things we said then was that due process is more important than outcome. That for decision making, oftentimes, it's not about who won, who the court affirmed. It's about the perception and the transparency of the process of the court. So I think the first thing the courts want to be doing is setting up, reassuring the public through their official communication that they really want to do justice. And secondly, as much as possible, allowing real-time observation of this, especially the Principal Tribunal, which is the Court of Appeal, a very serious court. So if they can do that and then manage appearance from now till then, none of these judges, they should kind of tactical exclusion from normal social activities. Because when you appoint A and B to a panel to do senatorial election, people want to see, if they see you and the candidate somewhere drinking or somewhere in socializing. So there's to be some voluntarily imposed seclusion of a sort, social restrictions for activities. Because, look, judging from the Raleigh School of Law, which I belong to, is like, judges are like us, they live with among us. So people are going to attribute ethnicity, the identity issues, moral issues, comprehensive moral views to them as well. But the less we see them, entangled with those settings, the more we treat them with special wisdom and, oracular, quietude and objectivity. But the more we see them mingling, and the less we know what they are doing, the more conspiratorial. So I think that the best bet now for the court, not just for the candidates, to save the image, the biggest person on trial in this electoral cycle now, it was INEC. INEC failed that test and have passed the buck. Now, judiciary is on trial. So I think if I was managing as chief judge or the president of the Court of Appeal or the chief judge of Nigeria, I would be thinking more around how do we secure the integrity of the judicial system, because we've seen that it will take us a long time to fix the electoral system. It takes a long time for the executive and the regulatory agencies to do their job. But we have a shortcut to democracy through the courts. So if the courts courageous, if the courts show a lot of integrity and willing to enhance public trust, we might be getting from the back door what we lost from the front door. So the courts really are carrying the boat. They are under trial. So the reason why they should be more transparent is not because of the candidates, to secure the integrity of the judiciary, which we need to sustain democracy.
Now, in this desperation, quote unquote, or in this move to secure the trust and the sanity of the judiciary, how do we now differentiate between this transparency, this move for transparency, and grandstanding?
Very good point. I mean, see, the notion about, I can give you an example. The U.S. Supreme Court last period had hearings that were online broadcast, real life. I was here in Nigeria. I was listening to the arguments between the Chief Justice, the Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, and the clients, especially in the case involving freedom of religion under Biden during the coronavirus. They did real time. It's not grandstanding, actually. It's about the court offering people to see. By the way, the courts are actually open to everybody. But what we're not talking about is the court being able to transmit, because that day will be packed, only lawyers, few lawyers, and maybe stakeholders will be able to gain access.
Well, even the media usually
will be asked to
stay
go
outside.
But in this case, imagine if, and it'd be best if it's a court moderated telecast or streaming. So it's not like anybody's going to distort the message. The court itself will open it up and people can tap in.
Well, there are suggestions by the NBA president, and even one of the candidates, Peter Obi, has also suggested that to actually gain that public trust.
It's critical because look, this election is not just about. Politicians are always merchants in hope, but we're actually in a bad place. It's a bad spot as a country in terms of unity, in terms of trust in institutions. The Afro Barometer test before this election showed very, very poor. If you look at 12% trust in INEC, trust in election, trust in judiciary. So it has gone down with this crisis of the election. So to ramp it up, to sustain post-election governance, you need transparency. So this is not grandstanding. It's in the interest of the courts, the judiciary, and the political system that somehow people sit in their rooms and say, well, we can see why A lost or why B won, and not based on social media reporting of where they applied to have the server or applied to have Sam Amadi testify and the judge didn't know that Amadi would say the truth and he knocked it off. You don't want to have those kind of narratives in this particular election.
Secondly, I beg una listen to this video. This man, I don't know where he come from. He said the election are free and fair. Say even people who confirm as are free and fair. He lists their name, come out. I beg una listen to the names of the people we in call come out. Say they talk, say the election are free and fair. Make everybody enter house, mona take heart. Obedience. I go soon later. Bye bye you.
Displeased with this electoral process and the outcome, to seek redress through lawful means instead of casting aspersions on the personality of the INEC chairman for reasons best known to them. It is our conviction that those asking for the head of the INEC chairman are the real enemies of Nigeria because their assumptions and allegations are a figment of their imaginations and not the reality on ground. It is a deliberate attempt to heat up the polity and cause chaos because the outcome of the elections didn't favor their preferred candidates. They must come to terms with the fact that in politics, you win some, you lose some. Our position is hinged on the fact that we gathered reports from observers across the country on the electoral process. The majority of the outcomes were positive, indicating that the elections were free, fair, and credible. This much was admitted by some international observer mission that rated the 2023 general elections as credible and arguably one of the Nigeria's most keenly contested elections. May we use this medium to highlight that the African Union Observer Mission, led by the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, commended the electoral process. Thus, I quote, "The mission commends INEC on the progressive measure taken to promote the greater participation in the electoral process, including giving priority to the elderly, people with disabilities, and other marginalized groups. Significant progressive reforms were a key feature of the 2023 general elections. Some of the reforms were a result of recommendations made in previous African Union observation missions. The mission noted that despite the challenging economic, operational, and security environment, the elections were generally well administered in a transparent and peaceful atmosphere." End of quote. The Commonwealth Observer Mission Group, led by the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, also commended the electoral process, stating that Nigerians were largely accorded the right to vote. The chairperson also noted an improvement with the enactment of a new electoral act in 2022, which gave the Electoral Commission more autonomy, legal backing for the use of electronic accreditation for voters, and frameworks for the inclusion of people with disabilities in the elections, among other things. Thus, the 2023 general elections were indeed free, fair, and credible. And may we use this medium to advise those persons and groups, after the head of the INEC chairman, to face their opponents instead of the INEC chairperson and commission staffers. The 2023 general elections have come and gone. It will go down in history as one of the most keenly contested elections, as well as one of the freest, fairest, and most credible elections in the country's annals. The Center for Social Justice, Equity and Transparency says that using this media to commend the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, for the conduct of the 2023 general elections, and with emphasis on the technological innovations that were introduced despite the effort of saboteurs to discredit the electoral process.
This is Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.